There is a specific kind of loneliness that has nothing to do with how many people love you, text you, or sleep beside you at night. It arrives in quiet moments when the noise fades and you're left with a raw, wordless ache in the center of your chest. It feels like missing someone you've never met, a place you've never visited, a language you somehow understand but can't quite speak. You've tried to name it: depression, anxiety, burnout, sensitivity, but none of those labels ever quite fit, do they? Since you were young, you sensed that something about this world was off. Not just unfair or cruel, off, like a song slightly out of tune. Adults told you, "That's just life, grow up." But part of you refused. You would stare at the sky and feel a grief that didn't belong to any story you'd been given. Sunsets hit you too hard. Silence felt too full. Your heart mourned something it had never been allowed to remember. Have you ever wondered why? Ancient Gnostic texts, Vedic hymns, Platonic myths, and the stories of indigenous peoples all whisper the same scandalous idea: that the core of who you are did not originate in this fractured realm. The Apocryphon of John speaks of a light spark, stranger to this eon, trapped in a world fashioned by a lesser power. The Upanishads call the soul the wanderer, moving through worlds but belonging to none. The Navajo remember a time when the holy people sent a part of themselves into the changing world. Different languages, same truth. You are a visitor. If that is true, then the ache you carry is not a defect. It is a homing signal. It is the echo of a higher gravity pulling on you from beyond the visible sky. The systems down here tried to diagnose it, medicate it, moralize it, shame it. But what if your restlessness is not a mental glitch, but evidence that your soul remembers a different order of reality? What if the part of you that never feels at home is the most honest part of you? Look at your life through that lens for a moment. How many times have you tried to settle into a normal life, only to feel something inside you wilt? How many times have you looked around and thought, is this really all we're doing? Working, buying, arguing, scrolling until we die? The world calls that cynicism. But what if it's clarity? What if the problem is not that you expect too much from life here, but that you dim what you know is possible? Tonight, I'm not asking you to blindly believe in some other realm just because it sounds pretty. I'm asking you to take your own experience seriously. The things that have haunted you, lit you up, broken you open, the dreams, the déjà vu, the irrational moral lines you refuse to cross even when no one is looking. These are not random. They are evidence. They are testimony. They are the fingerprints of a higher origin all over your human story. So let's walk backwards through your amnesia. Let's follow the trail of that ache into the place before your first memory, before your first breath, before this planet ever taught you who to be. Not with fluffy escapism, but with ruthless honesty and reverence. Because if you truly were not born here, then your entire life, your wounds, your gifts, your strange timing, is part of a much larger mission than you've been told. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you've never fit perfectly into this world is because you weren't intended to. You were meant to change it by remembering where you truly come from. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself before you had a face. Not your childhood, not the womb, before. There is a silence there, but it's not empty. It is thick with awareness, like still water holding the reflection of countless stars. In Gnostic language, This is the pleroma, the fullness, the realm where God is not a tyrant on a throne, but a sea of living light. In the Upanishads, it is Brahman, the boundless reality in which all worlds float like sparks in a bonfire. In the old Egyptian temples, they spoke of the Nun, the primordial waters from which the gods themselves arise. In that higher field, there is no you and me the way we use those words here. There are currents of qualities, living beings of truth, thought, life, grace, wisdom. The Gnostics called them aeons, emanations of the One, like colors pouring out of pure light. Somewhere among those currents, a particular pattern of light took shape. It was not an accident. It was a choice within the One, a decision to see itself in a new way. That pattern is what you now call your soul. Before you were assigned a human name, Greg, Sarah, Daniel, Amina, you were known by something closer to a chord than a word. It was the unique harmony of qualities that make you you. Courage and tenderness, a quiet hunger for truth, a strange combination of rebellion and devotion. In the hidden psalms of the heart, this is called your true name, the one written before the foundation of the world, as the New Testament hints when it speaks of names inscribed in a book of life. In some Chaldean and Hermetic traditions, they say the soul stood before a luminous council and its pattern was sung aloud. The eons contemplated you. They saw what you could become, what part of the cosmic story you might embody. They saw, in a single gaze, every life you might live, every world you might walk through. And then a question moved through that higher realm, not in language, but in direct knowing. Will you go? Go where? Into density, into limitation, into a realm that was already fracturing under the rule of a lesser architect, a demiurge, a being who mistook his derived power for ultimate authority, into a world where your name would be forgotten, buried under noise and lies, only to be slowly remembered at great cost. This was never about punishment. It was about experience, healing, and revelation. The One cannot truly know what it is to be lost unless some part of it volunteers to forget. Did you feel a tremor at that thought? That is the memory behind your memory. Somewhere beyond time, a part of you said yes. Not because you were bored in paradise, but because love in its highest form is willing to step into the wound. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, says the psalm. We often imagine that as something we pray in crisis. But what if your very incarnation is that walk? If this is true, then your human name is the faint echo of a much older resonance. You are not your biography. You are not your trauma. You are an ancient chord of light that existed before your parents, before this culture, before this species ever opened its eyes. And that chord is still playing beneath the static of your life, asking quietly, will you remember me? The Apocryphon of John tells a strange story. It speaks of a realm of light and harmony, then of a deviation, a thought outside of balance, a desire to create apart from the fullness. From that imbalance, a distorted creator arises. Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, lion-faced serpent, ignorant of the realm above him. In his arrogance, he fashions a world in his own fractured image. It is not utterly evil, but it is deeply incomplete. Most people read that as a myth about why the world is so broken. But hidden inside is another truth, that the higher realms did not abandon what was made in ignorance. Eons like Sophia, wisdom herself, leaned toward this wounded creation, aching for its healing. In some strands of the tradition, human souls are described as sparks of Sophia's own light, scattered into this realm as seeds of remembrance. In Plato's myth of we see souls standing in a strange in-between place, choosing their next lives. Some pick easy, comfortable roles and fall into them without much thought. Others choose harsher paths, long stretches of suffering and struggle, because something in them longs to rectify, to experience, to learn. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes bardos, between-world states where the soul is drawn towards certain wombs by the magnet of its tendencies and vows. Over and over, we encounter the same pattern. This is not random. Imagine again that council of light. The demiurge's realm flickers far below like a cracked mirror. Some souls are ready to dive in, some will stay in gentler classrooms. But your pattern, your name, vibrates differently. Perhaps you have been here before, wounded and wounded others, and now you long to return with more wisdom. Perhaps you have never fallen into this density and are volunteering for the first time. Either way, there is a sense of gravity, of mission. You are shown certain possibilities, a childhood where you will feel unseen, but through that invisibility, you will learn to see others in ways most people can't. A body that may carry illness, but through that fragility, you will learn to listen to the subtle and unseen. A time in history where lies are broadcast in high definition, but truth rises through forgotten channels. You see not just the pain, but the potential, that in those very cracks, light can pour through you into the world below. Why would anyone say yes to that? Because love is not content to remain untouched by suffering. Because truth that is never tested remains unproven. Because wisdom that never steps into chaos never knows its own strength. Somewhere beyond language, your soul understood that by descending into this realm, you would not only grow, you would act as a conduit, a walking fusion point between the pleroma and the broken world. So you agreed. You agreed knowing you would forget. Knowing that once you fell through the veils, you would question all of this, call it fantasy, doubt your own worth. And yet, here you are, listening to words about realms you cannot see, feeling them as strangely familiar. Tell me, does that really feel like coincidence? In many mystical traditions, there is an image of a book or scroll that contains the deep pattern of each soul's journey. In Jewish mysticism, the Book of Life is opened on holy days. In Egyptian belief, the heart is weighed against the feather of Mayat, revealing the story engraved within. In some Sufi tales, souls sign a covenant long before birth. "Am I not your Lord?" asks the beloved, and the souls answer, "Yes, indeed." Gnostics did not imagine literal parchment in the clouds, but they understood something similar, that the soul comes with a blueprint, not a rigid, scripted fate, but a set of agreements, a curriculum. You will enter a body with these tendencies, this lineage, these wounds in the family system. You will encounter these crossroads where your choices will matter immensely. You will meet these people, not because you are lucky or cursed, but because their patterns interlock with yours in a way that can awaken all of you, if you allow it. If you look honestly at your life, you will see the fingerprints of such a contract. Certain themes keep rising like tides: abandonment, betrayal, power, silence, responsibility, visibility. No matter where you go, they find you, Different faces, same lesson. Does that not suggest a design more intricate than random chance? Is it possible that your soul agreed, I will go into that realm and meet these specific challenges, not as punishment, but as alchemical fire? Of course, no contract is signed without witnesses. In some shamanic and esoteric traditions, the soul is believed to be accompanied by guiding presences, angels, ancestors, higher aspects of itself. They are not here to shield you from all pain. That would nullify the point of incarnation. They are here to hold the thread of your original agreement when you inevitably forget. Think of the times life has pushed you into situations you resisted, only to discover later that those very detours became the most important chapters of your story. And what did you promise? Perhaps something like this. I will go into forgetfulness, but I will not worship the false authorities of that realm for long. I will feel fear, but I will not bow to it as my God. When I remember, even faintly, that I am more than my body and biography, I will act on that remembrance. I will tell the truth even when it costs me. I will choose compassion over cruelty, even when cruelty seems safer. I will carry a piece of the higher order into the chaos, and I will not leave without leaving that realm changed. If that sounds grandiose, understand this. Your contract may not play out on public stages. It might be hidden in the way you raise a child differently than you were raised, the way you treat animals and strangers as souls instead of objects, the way you refuse to participate in dehumanizing systems. The demiurge's world measures importance in power and visibility. The higher realms measure importance in alignment. So when you feel the weight of your life, the why me of your particular struggles, consider this possibility. You didn't stumble into this. You chose this work. You signed for it. Not from a place of self-hatred, but from a courage so ancient you've forgotten it belongs to you. If you came from such a place, if you agreed to such a mission, why don't you remember it clearly? Why are there no crystal-clear scenes of counsels of light in your mind, no obvious instructions etched into your skin? This is where the pattern of forgetfulness comes in, the veil that every tradition in its own language tries to describe. The Greeks told of Lethe, the river of forgetfulness the soul must drink from before rebirth. The Orphic initiates carried little gold tablets in their graves with instructions. Do not drink from Lethe, drink instead from the pool of memory. The Tibetans mapped Bardos where dazzling lights appear, and souls, frightened, turn toward dimmer, familiar realms. Gnostic texts speak of archons, gatekeeping powers, that question souls as they try to ascend, demanding passwords, trying to drag them back into cycles of ignorance. Forgetfulness is not just a side effect of embodiment, it is part of the architecture of this realm. The demiurge's world runs on amnesia. If you remembered, without interruption, who you truly are and where you come from, you would not cling to the idols that keep this system running. You would see through manipulations instantly. You would know that no government, no church, no corporation has the authority to own your conscience. You would move differently. You would become unmanageable. So the veil serves two masters. From the perspective of the false powers, it keeps you small and compliant. From the perspective of the higher realms, it creates a genuine arena for growth. How can you become truly compassionate, courageous, or wise if you always remember that everything is safe, that you cannot truly be harmed, that you are held in eternal light? Down here, The stakes feel real. Hearts break. Bodies die. This gives weight to your choices. But the veil is not perfect. It tears at the edges. Children often arrive with memories of before, of other lives, of choosing their parents. Many forget as they're trained into the local reality, but not all. Dreams slip past the filters, bringing you images of other worlds, familiar and yet impossible. Psychedelic journeys, near-death experiences, deep prayer, and spontaneous mystical states rip holes in the amnesia, flooding people with a sense of home so intense they weep. Have you ever had a moment, standing under a night sky, listening to certain music, holding someone you love, where suddenly, for a breath, everything felt right in a way nothing in your ordinary life can explain? A rightness not of circumstance, but of being. That is what it feels like when the amnesia field thins. You are not learning something new in those moments. You are recognizing something ancient. The danger is always the same, that you will dismiss those glimpses as delusion, coincidence, or chemical tricks, and give your loyalty back to the grey, flat version of reality you've been sold. The invitation is also the same, to treat those moments as clues, as messages from your own deeper nature, as cracks in the dome through which a higher light is trying to reach you. There is a specific kind of loneliness that no amount of human company can heal. You felt it in crowded rooms, in the middle of laughter, even while held in loving arms. It is not simply the ache of wanting to belong here. It is the deeper ache of knowing, on some unspeakable level, that you never did. This is the wound of exile, not only from people or places, but from a forgotten sky your nervous system still remembers. You've tried to name it with words like emptiness, depression, or anxiety, but none of those fit. They are labels for surface storms. What you carry is a memory of another climate entirely. Gnostic texts describe the human condition as a kind of cosmic homesickness. The soul, they say, is a spark from the pleroma, the realm of fullness, thrown into a world of lack and pretending. The Gospel of Truth speaks of people wandering in fog, searching for the one they already belong to. And in the Chandogya Upanishad, a teacher tells his son, "You are that infinite, that subtle, that beyond." When such teachings pass near your heart, why do they feel less like religion and more like someone describing a dream you keep having but can never fully recall? You've watched others build their lives on this world as if it were the only one. Career as altar, status as scripture, financial security as salvation. You've tried at times to worship at the same shrines. Maybe you even succeeded externally, checked the boxes, achieved the goals, crafted the image. But underneath, there was always that quiet betrayal, the sense of playing a part in a play you never auditioned for. How many times have you whispered to yourself, "Why doesn't any of this feel like enough?" The wound of exile shows itself in your sensitivity. Loud places drain you. Cruelty scars you more deeply than it seems to scar others. Certain news stories haunt you for days. You can't shrug off the suffering of strangers as just the way it is. This world tells you that such sensitivity is weakness. But what if it is simply evidence that your soul was calibrated for a realm where violence is unthinkable, where dishonesty bruises the entire field, where every being knows itself as kin? Among indigenous traditions, there are myths of star people, those who came from the sky realms and took on bodies to help restore balance. In some West African cosmologies, Certain souls are said to be messengers from the high town, descending into the low town to deliver news from the source. The Navajo speak of holy people and the Dene walking together in the early worlds. When you encounter these stories, why does something in you lean forward and whisper, "This is about us"? The demiurge, that counterfeit architect of this lower matrix, wants you to pathologize this ache. He would rather you believe you are simply broken, ill, or maladapted to reality than consider the possibility that your reaction is sane and this world is what is sick. So he offers you numbing, substances, endless scrolling, overwork, spiritual bypassing. He whispers, "If you would just toughen up, you'd be fine." But are you here to toughen into this distortion, or to remain permeable enough to remember what wholeness actually feels like? Sit with this question honestly. If someone told you without doubt, you are from a higher realm and one day you will go home, would something in you unclench, even before your mind could decide if it believes it? That instant softening, that small, unguarded exhale, is not delusion. It is the body recognizing a note from its original song. Your exile is not punishment. It is the evidence that you are a traveler, not a native, a messenger, not a prisoner. The wound of exile will not fully close while you are here. It isn't supposed to. It is a compass, an open doorway in the heart through which the memory of your origin can keep streaming in. The question is not how to heal it away, but how to carry it wisely, to let it deepen your compassion instead of your bitterness, to let it remind you every single day that you were not born only for this world. You were born through it, into it, for a time, but not from it. For a long time, you may have treated your body as the enemy, too tired, too sensitive, too reactive, seemingly unable to sustain the pace this world demands. But what if your body has not been malfunctioning? What if it has been protesting? The orchestra of skin, nerves, heartbeat, and breath is tuned to a different atmosphere. You walk through this density like a deep-sea diver wearing gear designed for another ocean. Of course, parts of you ache. Notice the way your body responds to falsehood. When someone lies to you, even skillfully, your gut tightens, your shoulders rise, your breathing shallows. You may not have the facts, but you have a somatic verdict. Something here is not clean. In Gnostic terms, the eon of truth lives in your marrow. In the Taoist tradition, they speak of the Hun, the cloud soul that carries heavenly awareness, whispering through the liver and blood when something is off. Does your body not testify in similar ways? Consider also your relationship to time. In a world ruled by chronos, clock time, productivity, deadlines, your body keeps remembering kairos, sacred timing, the right moment that can't be forced. You might find yourself energized at inconvenient hours, receiving insight in the middle of the night, needing to rest when the calendar says grind. This isn't laziness. It is your system struggling to obey a mechanical schedule when it was birthed in a realm where things move by resonance and readiness, not by arbitrary numbers on a screen. There are foods, environments, and sounds your body simply cannot tolerate. Others around you ingest violence, loudness, chemicals, and chaos and call it normal. You try to do the same and your system riots, migraines, panic, fatigue, strange ailments with no neat diagnosis. Hidden in these reactions is a brutal kindness. Your body refuses to fully adapt to the toxins the demiurge has normalized. It is a living refusal, written in flesh, to consider this level of distortion as just the way things are. Ancient texts hint at this mismatch. In the Corpus Hermeticum, the awakened human is described as amphibious, belonging to both earth and heaven. Early Christian mystics spoke of the stranger on the earth, clothed in a body that longs to be swallowed up by a house not made with hands. The Bhagavad Gita describes the embodied soul as ancient, unborn, eternal, merely wearing bodies as garments. When you read such words, is your reaction purely intellectual? Or does your chest burn with a strange relief, as if someone finally explained why you've always felt like a visitor inside your own skin? Ask yourself, in your quietest, most honest moments, does your body feel more like a cage, a temple, or a vehicle? Perhaps the answer shifts. But notice how often, in your dreams and meditations, you find yourself moving beyond it, flying, dissolving, stepping out of it like a shell. These are not just fantasies. They are rehearsals. They are half-remembered skills from realms where form is far more fluid and transparent to mind. Your symptoms, sensitivities, and issues are not proof that you are weak. They are evidence that your instrument was designed for another kind of music. The archons want you to hate this instrument, to fight it, medicate it until it numbs, or push it until it breaks. The eons invite you to treat it as a holy, fragile, brave interface between dimensions, an advanced piece of light technology doing its best to translate infinity into blood and bone. So, the stern question is this: will you keep declaring war on a body that is trying, in its clumsy, painful way, to protect your original calibration? Or will you begin to listen to it as a witness, a prophet, a resistor coded against deep assimilation into a world that is not your final address? The more you honor its language, the more it will relax, because you have finally stopped trying to make it forget what it knows. Your soul did not sign up to wander this realm alone. Even within a world largely asleep, you have encountered others whose eyes carried that same ancient fatigue and that same unstoppable ember. Sometimes you recognized each other instantly, with a shock of familiarity that no timeline could explain. Other times the recognition was slower, like a face emerging from fog, a sense that this person is part of your pre-Earth story. Relationships are not random. They are the choreography of remembrance. Sacred texts across cultures hint at this. The Gospel of Philip speaks of the companion, a soul who knows you beyond flesh. Sufi mystics speak of friends of God, who recognize one another by scent of heart. In some indigenous traditions, whole clans are believed to have descended from specific star lineages, carrying shared duties and memories. Have you not felt some connections in your life that obeyed none of the usual rules, that felt like meetings scheduled long before you arrived on this planet? But the relational field is also where the demiurge and his archons work most aggressively. If they can tangle you in contracts of codependence, obsession, resentment, or fear, they can keep your attention bound to dramas that repeat lifetime after lifetime. Some relationships in your life have likely felt less like companionship and more like energetic quicksand. No matter what you do, you sink into the same painful roles. These are not just bad choices. Often they are archonic bonds, forged around unhealed wounds and exploitative patterns. Consider the partners, friends, or even teachers who have tried to make you smaller, who subtly punished your awakenings, who seemed threatened whenever you stepped more fully into your light. Did you notice how often they pulled you back into old habits, old beliefs, old versions of yourself? It is as if, on some unseen level, The program uses them as stabilizing weights to keep you from lifting out of its gravity. The question is harsh, but necessary. How many of your bonds are based on mutual remembrance, and how many are based on mutual forgetting? At the same time, think of the rare souls who have looked at you and said, in essence, "I see where you come from." They may not use those words, but they respond to your depth instead of your surface. They do not flinch when you speak of synchronicities, visions, or the presence of guides. They are not impressed by your spiritual image. They are interested in your sincerity. Being with them feels like standing near a familiar fire. Time bends around your conversations. You leave feeling more like yourself, not less. Your task is not to judge or label people, but to discern patterns. The archons thrive in unconsciousness. They weave their traps through unexamined agreements. I will make myself palatable if you don't leave. I will hold myself back so you can feel comfortable. I will ignore my inner guidance to keep this connection. Each of these bargains is a small betrayal of your original contract with the light. How many of those have you signed? From a higher perspective, even the painful archon-tinged relationships serve. They reveal where you still believe you are unworthy of the love that matches your real nature. They expose the places where exile has made you desperate for belonging at any cost. But once the lesson is clear, clinging becomes self-harm. The stern mercy of the eons sometimes asks you to walk away, not in bitterness, but in allegiance to the truth of who you are. Look around your life now. Who feels like heavy curtains, and who feels like open windows? Who drags you back into the familiar prison, and who stands at the door pointing toward the stars saying, "Remember"? Your higher realm origin will not be fully remembered in isolation. It comes back in shards through conversations, in glances, in the shared silence between fellow exiles. Honor the ones who help you remember. Release, or at least redefine, the ones who demand that you forget. By now, perhaps the idea that you were not born here no longer feels abstract. It feels like the only explanation that has ever truly accounted for your life, your sensitivities, your grief, your persistent refusal to fully adapt to a world that praises what you find hollow and ignores what you find sacred. But knowing this in theory is one thing. Living it out is another. How do you move through a marketplace of illusions while holding the memory of a higher homeland steady in your chest? First, you stop trying to win a game you were never meant to worship. The demiurge's economy runs on comparison, competition, and chronic not-enoughness. It tells you that value is something to be earned externally, with numbers, titles, and displays. As a soul from the higher realms, your value is pre-existent. The eons didn't send you here to prove yourself. They sent you here to express yourself, to leak fragments of the pleroma into places that have forgotten such light exists. This doesn't mean you stop participating in society. It means you stop letting society define your worth. Second, you begin to treat your daily life as a mission field, not a mistake. Every interaction becomes a chance to introduce a different vibration. The way you listen when others only wait to speak. The way you pause before reacting, allowing a higher patience to flow through. The way you refuse to dehumanize even those enmeshed in darkness, seeing them as souls buried under layers of programming. These small acts are not trivial. They are micro-portals, tiny breaches in the matrix where pleromic air leaks in. Third, you establish practices that keep your inner embassy open. Prayer, meditation, chanting, silence, breath, walks in nature. All of these are ways of dialing home. The Gospel of Thomas records Yeshua saying, "The kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you." When you turn within, you are not just daydreaming. You are stepping into the interior doorway of that kingdom. If you neglect this, the noise of the lower realm will consume your attention, and you will forget again. Do you truly want to live as if this world is all there is? Fourth, you learn to carry the tension without collapsing into either extreme. Some react to their higher realm origin by rejecting matter, despising the body, and fantasizing constantly about escape. Others forget their origin entirely and drown in survival. You are called to something more paradoxical, to fully inhabit your body while knowing you are more than it, to care for this world while knowing it is not ultimate, to feel the ache of exile without letting it harden into cynicism. Can you live in that holy in-between, like a bridge suspended between two shores? Ancient mystics often describe themselves as in the world, but not of it. This is not a slogan, it is a discipline. It means paying your bills, doing your laundry, showing up for your people, while simultaneously holding conversations in the quiet of your heart with the source you remember. It means answering emails and the inner call of your soul. It means being reliable and revolutionary at the same time. The demiurge wants you all in or all out. The eons ask you to stand in both realms at once. Finally, you accept that not everyone will understand, and you stop needing them to. Your life will not make sense to those who worship the game. They will call you unrealistic, too intense, too sensitive, too spiritual, not strategic enough. Let them. You are not here to convince them. You are here to embody a different pattern so clearly that one day, when their own exile finally cracks them open, they will remember something of your way and realize, that strange one was onto something. To walk as a citizen of two worlds is to live as ongoing proof, in your choices, your presence, your integrity, that you come from somewhere else. You don't have to announce it. The way you love, the way you refuse to betray your soul, the way you keep showing up with tenderness in a brutal age will testify louder than any declaration. I was not born of this world's fear. I am here on assignment, and when my work is done, I will go home. Now comes the turning point. Not just knowing you were not born here, but choosing to live as one who remembers. You did not incarnate to merely survive, fit in, or play by rules written by beings who never wanted you to awaken. You came with a vow, one you may not consciously recall, but your heart has never forgotten. Carry the light of your true origin wherever darkness claims dominion. Somewhere before birth, you agreed to enter this density, not as a sleeper, but as a rememberer, someone who could walk through illusion without giving allegiance to it. That means you are not here to win the game of this world, but to quietly reveal that it was never the real one. And that revelation begins not with grand gestures, but with daily choices, choosing truth over convenience, alignment over approval, and inner guidance over external noise. Your sensitivity is not weakness. It is evidence of your calibration. Your longing is not a flaw. It is proof of memory. Your exile is not punishment. It is the consequence of carrying a map to someplace higher than Earth can offer. You are not waiting to become who you are. You are remembering what you already were before you entered this body. So take a breath. and make this your anchor. I will not forget myself in a world designed to make me forget. If these words resonate, then this chapter is not the end. It is your signal. Honor your knowing. Follow it. Live it. Protect it. And if your soul feels called to journey deeper into these mysteries, explore my Gnostic-inspired novels and audiobooks, crafted as multidimensional transmissions to help awaken what your memory has guarded all along.